Imagine waking up to yourself for the very first time ever. Imagine waking up to yourself for the very first time ever. Imagine that everything you've ever thought about who you are or how it feels to be the authentic you that you are was really just a shadow of the infinite potential of what it could actually feel like to be the fullness and the wholeness of all that you are. Imagine shattering the shadows and revealing the truth of the wholeness and the fullness that has always been there, waiting to be unveiled. Imagine that you've never actually met all of you before, ever. Imagine that you've never actually met all of yourself before. Imagine that you've never actually woken up and been with all of you before, ever. What would it feel like to meet yourself for the very first time? What would it feel like to know all that you are, independent of anything you've ever experienced? What would it feel like to be in such fullness and wholeness from within that mattered more than anything else in the entire universe? As we move through life, we inevitably encounter moments of unfulfilled attachment needs. And this begins at a very young age. And that is just a part of the human experience at this point in our divine evolution. But there are moments where we don't feel seen and loved for who we are. There are moments where we don't feel fully supported and connected in who we are. There are moments where we don't feel fully embraced and respected in who we are. There are moments where we don't fully feel safe and secure in who we are. There are moments of unfulfilled attachment needs beginning from an early period of life. And this can happen in seemingly small moments, like being lost in a store for 5 minutes and you suddenly don't have a form of security. Or getting swept out in the ocean for literally like 30 seconds before someone runs out and picks you up and grabs you and takes you back onto the shore because a wave started to take you out. This can happen in seemingly small moments, seconds and minutes. And the earlier in life it happens, the more dramatically it impacts the wiring of the body-mind. But as we progress through life, it keeps happening. And there's those people who said those unkind things, and there's that situation that didn't play out and help you feel celebrated for all that you are, and there's this time where you had to do something you really didn't want to do and you didn't feel respected in that process. And there's all these times in life. And imagine that every single time there's something like that in life, a part of you is then trapped in a piece of body-mind wiring that is independent of the rest of the energetic flows that are navigating your own self and existence or reality or personal experience. There's this pool of energy and it's providing navigation for all these parts of yourself. But then anytime there's a moment of unfulfilled attachment needs, then there's this piece of wiring in the body-mind that's over here instead of over here. And it kind of gets stuck. It's a piece of energy that's stuck. It's not freely, fluidly flowing anymore. And then there are parts of the self who get stuck in that wiring. Okay? It's kind of like if you're going for a jog and then suddenly you land in this big pile of squishy mud and it's like suctioning you in and you can't get your foot out. And the mud's like suctioning you in and you can't get your foot out. But then everyone you're running with keeps running past because they didn't get stuck in the mud. It's almost like that, but in the body-mind. So imagine at any moment of unfulfilled attachment needs, no matter how seemingly small, that one time someone said something that was unkind, that one time you got picked last for a team, that one time that you failed a test and you were not celebrated in that moment. The what, like, no matter how seemingly small. And then obviously, if there's a traumatic experience or an intensively stressful experience, that's going to be even more so. Going to create more wiring in the body mind that's over here instead of over here, and more parts of the self that are over here instead of with the rest of the self. Okay, so any moment of unfulfilled attachment needs can create this independent body-mind activity and this independent activity of the self. And I want there to be a very specific distinction. This is not a fragmentation or a separation of the self. It's independent activity of the self, because that self is still whole within itself. And that self is still united in the sense that it's all here. It's all right here. It's still all here. But it's experiencing self through independent activity. Okay? So throw out any words or descriptions of separation or fragmentation. Delete, delete, delete. That's not what's happening. It's independent activity of self aspects, independent activity of body-mind navigation and regulation. It's all still right here in the wholeness and the fullness of everything the self has always truly been. But because there were moments of unfulfilled attachment needs, there's now these pieces of wiring in the body-mind that are kind of doing their own thing, if you will. And then there are parts of the self who are associated with that wiring, just because that's how the human experience works. And so they're just kind of stuck in this little region over here without being able to contact everything else going on over here. Okay? Independent activity of body-mind navigation and independent activity of self aspects. Now imagine that as you move through life, you have moments, and you walk up to a flower and you smell this beautiful flower. But as you smell that beautiful flower, the navigation of the experience is right here, right? It's fluidly flowing right here. But then there's all these islands of data in the body-mind. There's all these independent islands from past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs that are not experiencing this. Okay? You tracking with me? Okay, so there's like this fluidly flowing navigation and self aspects in the present moment. And it's flowing, and it's fluid, and it's harmonious, and it's a great union. There's all of this stuff, and it's just fluid, and it's flowing, and it's movement, and it's happening now. But then there's all these islands of data in the body-mind that aren't connected with this flow. And they're not moving. They're islands. They're over here. They're not part of this like fluid ocean water. They're islands. They're right here, and they're not moving. And they're not associated with these other islands or with this fluid flow over here. And then there are parts of the self who are living on those islands. Okay? There are parts of the self who are living on those islands, and they're not over here with the parts of the self flowing through this experience. So then when you go to smell a flower, there are parts of you who are not actually able to smell that flower at all. There are parts of the self who are not in the experience of the present moment at all. And there's these regions of the body-mind that are navigating life independent of the experience of smelling a flower in the brand new present moment. So then there's activations and projections from these past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs affecting these parts of the self. And then there's also this reality where you're trying to smell a flower in the present moment, but not all of you is there to experience it in its fullness, and the body-mind wiring is not fully supporting the ability to fully and completely actually smell that flower as it exists in the present moment. And this happens with everything. If you're eating food, if you're taking a shower, if you're going for a walk, no matter what you're doing, there's these present moment stuff, right? And there's this energy flowing to navigate that experience with the self in the moment, but then there's still all these islands. And these islands could be from age 2, age 4, age 5, age 13, age 16, age 20, age 25. It could be from a few months ago. There's all these islands. And then the body-mind isn't able to effectively navigate a brand new present moment that's never happened before. And there's parts of the self who are not fully united with all of the self to experience that brand new present moment that's never happened before. And so then we're waking up each day without actually being associated with all that we are. And that can really reduce the quality and the potency and the powerfulness and the beauty and the wonder and the infinite potential of life. So how do we shift this? This is an experience that basically everyone in the human form encounters to some degree at least some point in their life. How do we help these islands dissolve and come back to this fluid flow? And how do we welcome these parts of the self who are trapped on all these islands home to the rest of the self? Okay. So first, let's see, how were the islands created in the first place? Moments of unfulfilled attachment needs. So how do we break the islands down? We create new moments where we fulfill attachment needs for ourselves. We help ourselves feel seen and loved. We help ourselves feel safe and secure. We help ourselves feel supported and connected. We help ourselves feel respected and embraced, independent of any other relationship or circumstance or experience or external variable outside of us. And that's not always easy, but it is very worth it. And then what happens is when we create these new moments of fulfilling attachment needs for ourselves, we are actually helping to generate new implicit emotional and procedural memories. We're teaching our body-mind how to feel and how to move. How to feel and how to move. We're reteaching the body-mind how to feel and how to move. And so when you create a moment of fulfilled attachment needs for yourself, you're creating these positive, loving emotions. You're creating this new sense of presence where you're approaching your own presence. And then the body-mind has action patterns that encourage approaching loving presence and avoiding anything that restricts or reduces the power of your loving presence. And that's a powerful place to be. Because no matter what else is going on, no matter what other habits or things that we're doing or things that we're feeling, if we can approach our love and our presence, then there's greater unity in the self to navigate anything. And there's less possibility of something that is not love and not presence to disrupt the flow. Okay? So, any moment of unfulfilled attachment needs can create this independent activity in the body-mind that's navigating and regulating existence, and independent activity between parts of the self, who are the self, the actual self, independent of experience. It's the experiencer of the self, and the awareness of that experiencer. And so we can start to break down these islands and welcome these parts of the self home to each other in a brand new present moment by creating new implicit emotional and procedural memories in relation with attachment well-being. And the simplest way to just start practicing this in everyday life is through simple acts of self-care and self-love. That's a very good beginner place to start. But then if you want to dive deeper, there's other ways that you can create these new layers of body-mind wiring and welcome these parts of the self home. And that is where KRISTIN'S consciousness consultancy comes into play. Every service and creation I offer has this very specific purpose of rewriting implicit memories at the foundation of body-mind navigation and regulation, uniting, liberating, and expanding these infinite parts of the self, and re-sculpting how the self encounters its own existence and all components of reality by shape-shifting this information from the inside out. Healing, restoration, Transcendent transformation, personal power reclamation, and loving liberation are the key cornerstones of every program, every practice, every service, every offering through KRISTIN'S consciousness consultancy. From the simpler offerings of the mantras on Healing Journey merchandise to the videos with practices of meditations, affirmations, a cooking play shop, etc., to the more complex deep dives where there are programs and courses that last several years that continue to create incredible loving liberation and healing transformation from the inside out in monumental degrees of divine magnificence. Speaking from my own personal experience and the passion of my own heart, because every single one of these courses has completely changed my life and given me back when that felt completely impossible. And then the deepest deep dives, the most intimate journeys, are the Mirrorthon practices. And the Unveiling Mirrorthon journey is parallel in some components, in some aspects, with a shamanic soul retrieval, but in a completely different way because we're just hanging out in mirrors, and that's it. But in a very specific process and practice, of course. And through the unveiling journey, we actually tap in to all of these parts of ourselves. We come face to face with these parts of ourselves who are on these islands. And we don't have to look at the past experiences that created those islands. We don't have to look at the memory data that's stored in those islands of brain-body wiring. We don't have to look at any of the details of neural wiring or anything. We just turn inward and come face to face in intimate eye contact with parts of the self. And as we do this, this process starts to dissolve these islands and starts to bring home these parts of the self. And this creates a lot of power because then it's an interruption for the automations of reality. It's an interruption for the automations of reality, is what it is. It's an interruption for the automations of reality. Because those islands might have been creating these automatic movement patterns or habits or action patterns or emotional responses or feelings-based sensations. And there's just no way to get out of them because they're just flooding your life in every moment of every day. And it's been happening for so long you can't imagine life happening without that or what it might be like or feel like to be free from that. But as these islands start to dissolve and these parts of the self come home, it's an interruption of the automations of reality being generated and produced by the body-mind. And then more parts of the self are together, home and whole in a brand new present moment that's ever happened. And then there's more power to consciously shift the intentional creation of reality rather than being subjected to the automations of reality. And so among its infinite benefits, the subconscious unveiling personalized Mirrorthon journey directly activates these islands without having to look at past experiences, memory data, or neural wiring details. And it intimately engages those parts of the self where you come face to face in direct eye contact with those parts of the self who have been in these independent experiences of self and life for sometimes decades. And they've never actually gotten to be with the rest of the self. And the experience is the most profound encounter imaginable. And I say that with soulful conviction because I have been doing these journeys for myself every day since before I can remember, which is a literal thing because I am healing from massive amounts of amnesia, and that's okay. But I have been doing these Mirrorthon journeys every day since literally before I can remember. It's been many, many years. And every single time, there is a dramatic shift in the way that I wake up to myself. And it is profound beyond anything I can ever fully articulate into words. It is the most transcendent experience conceivable. There is nothing that tops it. There's nothing that compares with it. Nothing. Like, think of a moment of ecstasy, maybe riding a roller coaster or doing something incredible. Think of a moment of just profound peace. You're sitting on a mountaintop overlooking the most beautiful scenery imaginable. Imagine just these peak experiences of life. And then imagine that those are peanuts and pancakes, irrelevant specks of dust in the comparison with what it feels like to come face to face with the wholeness and the fullness and the expansive totality of the truth of the beingness of all that you are, and to awaken to the fact of all that you are, and to know that wholeness and fullness from within. Imagine that all of those peak experiences are specks of dust, nothingness, compared to the monumental magnificence of fully meeting the totality of all that you are. And it's not a one-time encounter. It's a shift to embody that eternally. It's not just a one-time encounter with who you are, like, hi, nice to meet you. Okay, now I'm just back to the way things were. It's a shift in the entire activity of the entire body mind that affects trillions of parts of the self. And from that moment on, nothing's the same. And then consciousness has infinite power regarding how and where to direct its internal energy to start to mold reality into the masterpiece of the magnificence of the truth of your beingness. And imagine that meeting yourself again and again for the first time ever is the greatest peak experience of life you could ever know. And it's even more potent and powerful because that power exists within at any moment of any day, no matter what else is happening. Imagine having that level of power. So among its infinite potentials and profound benefits, the subconscious unveiling Mirrorthon journey, in this analogy where moments of unfulfilled attachment needs have created these islands of independent body-mind activity, and there are parts of the self, there's trillions of self aspects, trillions of self aspects, parts of the self, parts of consciousness, and they're over here on these islands. And instead of having to go back through your whole life and be like, okay, I need to go hunting for all the moments where I didn't feel seen and loved so I can get those parts of me back. Oh no, but now I'm looking at experiences I don't want to see, or oh my goodness, there's like millions of moments where this has happened. How am I supposed to work with millions of memory datas to accomplish this? You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to look at any of that. Not at all. Not at all. It's irrelevant. It doesn't, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Instead, you just play in mirrors in a very specific way where the journey is blissfully enjoyable and ecstatically, exuberantly, wondrously wondrous. And the process naturally unfolds in a more effective way than you could ever imagine. And millions of these islands dissolve simultaneously. You don't have to go from one island to the next. Millions of them dissolve simultaneously, and millions and billions of parts of the self come home in an instant. And the journey continues to have benefits because even in the hours and days that follow, the process is still expanding in its integration, and there are still parts of the self coming home, and there's still parts of brain-body wiring who are reaping the benefits of the Mirrorthon. And then you start to actually get to know yourself for the first time. You start to actually feel connected with yourself for the first time. You start to actually feel what it feels like to wake up to all of you in a literal and figurative sense. You wake up to all that you are. And so through the subconscious unveiling Mirrorthon journey, we unveil these parts of the self who haven't gotten to be with all of the self before. We unveil these parts of the body-mind that haven't been effectively navigating present moments. And we shapeshift it just by gently playing in mirrors. And then if you wish to take what we work with through the Unveiling Mirrorthon journey and continue that work, continue that play, continue the mirror play with mirror power, then there is the option of creating a personalized Mirrorthon prescription. It's an actual prescription. Like if you go to an eye doctor and you go and do a little test and you're like, okay, how well can I see, right? That would be parallel with the unveiling journey where we're figuring out what's happening and what's going on, and we're learning about this stuff and unveiling what's happening. And then you're given a prescription glasses or contact lens, right? In this comparison, it's like that, but you're given a prescribed Mirrorthon practice where you're going to practice loving presence in a mirror in a certain way for a certain amount of time, doing a certain sort of activity at this sort of schedule-ish, you know, maybe 10 minutes when you wake up, 30 minutes before you go to bed, for example. Everyone is customized. And then you take this power of the unveiling journey and you continue to create loving liberation for all these parts of yourself. And every day more of you comes home, and every day the body-mind wiring shapeshifts to provide more effective navigation and regulation in profound ways. And that's the full feature Mirrorthon journey. The Unveiling Mirrorthon journey still has all of those benefits, though, where it is in some ways parallel with the effects and the results and the transformation of a shamanic soul retrieval, where you're literally going inside of yourself and taking those parts of yourself back. But you don't have to look at any past experiences or shift to any like weird dimensions or anything like that. You're literally just playing in mirrors while having eye contact with yourself and following the journey that I'm a guide for. And it is fun and enjoyable. Truly, it's so much fun. I still do these Mirrorthon journeys for myself every day just because they're fun and the results are unparalleled. And then if you want to go further, then you can do the personalized Mirrorthon prescription, which is the full feature journey. And then you receive 200 plus pages of stuff to help that journey so you can keep that journey going in powerful ways. And if mirrors aren't for you, there's lots of other offerings. The Restoring Consciousness, Healing into Happiness, Implicit Transformation, lots of practices in the Liberated Consciousness course even, and the different videos and the practices and even the mantras that are available on the merchandise. All of them are very specifically designed to help this exact process, where we are shape-shifting implicit memories, rebuilding navigation and regulation in the body-mind, healing these attachment systems at the foundation of it all, and welcoming these parts of ourselves home, uniting these self aspects, liberating these self aspects, expanding the fullness of these self aspects, working with consciousness, or the true essence of self, and brain-body wiring that affects experience. They're not the same as each other, but they have a relationship with each other. And there's lots of other offerings as well, connecting with me one-on-one or in a small group through an audio or video call. And through that, I can serve as a consciousness consultant, which really just means that I'm connecting with the essence of you, not the brain-body wiring, not the experience, not the struggles, not the stories, not the stuff, but the actual essence of you as divine consciousness, a consciousness consultation, or serve as a healing journey guide in an infinite myriad of situations, or explore subconscious mapping through a video call. And those are way, way, way fun. You can explore all the different benefits of that on the webpage about it. But we're basically pinpointing the underlying cause of any kind of personal experience and exploring how this brain-body wiring is structured to affect that personal experience, exploring the attachment needs at the foundation of the memory data, without looking at memory details that are navigating these moments, but looking at just the foundation of how the wiring is happening, distinguishing the essence of self from those automations, and then using all of this expanded awareness to create a beautiful plan of action so that you can have power to shapeshift it in any way that you choose. So there's just lots of incredible, incredible things, and I love, love, love sharing all of the magics that I have through KRISTIN'S Consciousness Consultancy. So please do check out all of the different offerings, the merchandise, videos, programs, practices, services, lots and lots of magic. I'm so excited to share, mainly because I have witnessed the continued expansion of the potency of every single one of these offerings over and over and over and over and over again. And just when I feel like I've reached the peak of all that any of these things could offer, I have another breakthrough where more of me comes home and the magnificence of everyday moments shifts and expands in new ways that I never imagined possible. And I want to share that. I want to share that medicine. I want to share that magic. I want to share the power of that experience. And how the healing journey really can be fun and enjoyable while still cultivating truly effective restoration, transformation, and liberation. We are rewriting and reprogramming hundreds of trillions of pathways of information in the body-mind that have been impacted by every nanosecond of experience since early childhood. But that monumental feat, that giant accomplishment, can be blissful and easy and enjoyable and loving and nurturing and compassionate every step of the way, while reaping these expansive rewards of effectively achieving all of that. And it is just my greatest passion, and to see the results again and again only inspires me more and more. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Even if you do not explore any of the offerings, I welcome you to just attune with these islands of the body-mind that might be there from past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs, to lovingly connect with these parts of the self who might not be fully with all of you yet, and to open yourself to the awareness that you might actually not know anything about who you really are, and how starting to see and love yourself could create some powerful life shifts. And you can also explore more about this concept on the page about social self-engagement. It's a free webpage, has some amazing insights and videos and whatnot. Social self-engagement practices have a lot of power, and that can be practiced in everyday life in simple and easy ways. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being you. Have a beautiful and blessed day. Namaste. The divine love and light in my consciousness sees and honors the divine love and light in your consciousness. Infinite blessings, beautiful beings, and I look forward to connecting with you, whether that's in another free video creation or whether it's through personal connection through my passion, purpose, soul bliss, or my business, KRISTIN'S Consciousness Consultancy. I'm grateful you're here, and I'm grateful you're you.